Thanks for tuning in. I just wanted to tell you the 3 movies that I have watched this week. Every week I'm going to be bringing you 3 movies that I've watched, along with other topics on different stuff if it comes along and I have something to talk about. But the 3 movies that I have seen this week, the first one I'm going to start off with is a film called Dallas Buyers Club. I'm going to leave a picture up here. Okay, so the Dallas Buyers Club is set in 1985. It stars an actor called Matthew McConaughey, who plays a character called Ron Woodruff, and he finds out one day that he has AIDS. Now, I'm not going to put any spoilers in any of these, so I'm not going to ruin the movie for you or anything. But also stars an actor called Jared Leto, who's also a musician and a good actor. And I didn't actually realise until I finished watching this movie. Now, I watched the movie all the way through, and Jared Leto in the film, actually, he's sort of like dressed as a woman, acts like a woman, makeup, all that. And I watched the entire film, and it wasn't until I watched the end, I actually read the end credits, that I actually realised it was Jared Leto. It's like he was in the title, I didn't realise it. That's crazy to some people, but I know a lot of people might be able to spot him off, but I've got to admit, he put a great performance in. I thought the acting all round in this film was great. Okay, so like I said, there'll be no spoilers. Matthew McConaughey finds out in the movie that he only has 30 days to live. The doctor says, you got full-blown AIDS. You got 30 days to live. So they stick him on this drug called AZT, which is the only drug in America that is FDA approved and that will help him for the next 30 days. Unfortunately, the drug doesn't really do much for him. So he goes out of area, out of state, to try and find other drugs that aren't FDA approved and help him maybe try and get better. So basically what happens after that point is he becomes a human guinea pig. You know, he goes out of state, out of area to try and find a drug that isn't FDA approved, anything that he can take to try and make himself get better, like anybody would do. You know, you're told you've got a disease, you're going to go out and you're going to try and find anything that can help you, you know. So this is what he's gone and done. So he's went out of state, out of the area, you know, somewhere like Mexico, and he's found a place that will actually give him a drug that, you know, as long as you're out of the area, you can try this stuff. And it somewhat works up to a degree. And due to the actual drug actually working and realising that it's more effective than the original drugs that were given to him by the American doctors, he decides, maybe I could make a little bit of loose change off this. So he decides to ship some in from Mexico, and he decides to start selling it to other patients who have HIV and AIDS. Of course, the American doctors don't agree or like what he is doing. And why would they? Because at the end of the day, he's now selling to other HIV and AIDS patients. They realise that we could be losing some severe money here, so they get all butthurt about it. And they spend a portion of the movie chasing him and trying to shut him down for it. The actual main nurse in the movie is played by Jennifer Garner, who is actually sympathetic. She sympathises up to a degree with what Matthew McConaughey is doing, and she accepts it up to a degree what she's doing, but most of the other doctors are blatantly against him and don't agree with it. Now, the reason I actually like this film so much is because it touches upon a topic of how corrupt the medical systems is, how much America is, the whole drug system in America, and how basically how screwed up it is. The things I actually don't understand about doctors in specific countries like America and the UK are the way they try and force feed you drugs. I never will understand it. I'm talking from personal experience from a specific age where doctors try to give me drugs, to take drugs for specific conditions, and even lately they try and give you drugs. It's like they're not really interested in finding cures for things. They'd rather drag out, you know, like a fucking death sentence. They'd rather drag it out and drug you up, because at the end of the day they're making money off of it. And I believe that near enough everything they do, the medical company, especially in America and the UK, is corrupt as fuck, and it's all about money. You know, they don't really want to. Do they really want to see people get better, or do they just want to prolong it, just to try and make money? It's all about the big buck at the end of the day. It's all corrupt, all of it. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand that if you do have specific conditions, then drugs are necessary. I'm not saying that drugs are always the wrong thing to do, you know, but over the last 10, 15 years, if you look at the way it's been going, it's steadily been getting worse over time, over year after year after year. More people are taking drugs, and they're taking them unnecessarily, you know. I've got a film here, which I'm going to leave a link down below as well, but I've got the original of this. It's called Making a Killing. Now, I'm not sure if any of you guys have actually seen this movie, but the untold story of psychotropic drugging. You know, it's say if you've got something like depression, or you've got, I don't know, some kind of disease, AIDS, anything like that. It's where they just try and force feed drugs to you when you don't actually need them. Okay, so this actual documentary is about psychotropic drugs, this one, and it's mainly about depressed patients who have been put onto drugs rather than being actually being offered help. A lot of people actually go into these doctors' offices and they ask for help. They ask, you know, they ask maybe to be put into a group or sit down and be spoken to, you know, more a one-on-one basis, where doctors aren't really interested in doing that. They'd rather sit down and they'd rather just write a prescription out. Here you go down to the chemist. There you go. There's your drugs. You start pumping you full of them until you become dependent on them. Until the point you become so fucking addicted that you cannot get off them. And they're a fucking nightmare. And this documentary explains it all. Now, I'm going to leave the link down below. The full documentary is on YouTube. You can check that out. Of course, I'm not knocking all doctors here. I'm not knocking every drug out there. I'm sure that there are drugs that will help people get better through depression. There are certain people who it will benefit if you're depressed. If you've got certain diseases, there are certain drugs you can take that will make you get better. Of course, everybody's different. But you have to keep your eyes open, because most of the doctors in America and the UK lie. They tell you a pile of shit. And I'm talking from personal experience here, due to whatever conditions I have. I'm not going into the conditions I've got, but I have been told a pack of lies. I've been told lies from doctors. I've been told lies from dentists. Dentists as well, because dentists fill your head with a load of garbage. They'll tell you to take this, brush your teeth using this. They'll tell doctors to take pills for this. If you go on the internet, I understand the internet is filled up with a lot of bullshit. There's a lot of bullshit on the internet. There's a lot of fucking truth on the internet as well. But you've got to keep your eyes open. You know, you find the right sources. Keep an open mind. Look through loads of information. If you find out you've got something, look through information. Look on the internet. Look through all your sources. Go through everything. And then you define what is bullshit. You define what is right and wrong. And you can tell. Most logical people who can think straight can actually tell what's right and what's wrong. And then go back and listen to what that doctor said and told you in the first place. And you'll find out that 99.9% of everything he told you in that fucking doctor's office is a pile of shit. Think for your fucking self. Think for yourself. Okay, I went a little bit deeper than I actually should have done on that last review. I apologise for that. Let's brighten things up a little bit by talking about a guy who was kidnapped for 20 years and then let release like nothing had ever happened. Okay, the third movie I'm going to talk about today is called Oldboy. Now, I have watched about 10 minutes of the original a long time ago. I believe the original came out in, if I'm looking it up, 2003. Now, I watched the remake. It is a remake, and I know a lot of people out there, I've read reviews on this new version of Oldboy, and from what I've read, it's getting slammed right, left and centre. Now, I can't really compare it considering I haven't watched the entire original movie from 2003. But I can tell you from what I think of it, I personally thought it was a decent movie. Okay, so Oldboy was directed by Spike Lee and stars Josh Brolin. Josh Brolin in the movie is kidnapped, placed in a room for 20 years, Not explained why he's in the room or when he's getting out or any of that good shit. Just gets locked up for 20 years straight. Gets fed every now and again, given bottles of drink, glug glug glug, gobble gobble gobble. That's all he does for 20 years. And then boom, he wakes up one morning and he's dumped outside in a suitcase, and he has to try and figure out what the fuck and why the fuck he is in that predicament. He then spends a few days trying to hunt down and figure out the reasons why he was locked up in the first place for. Are you intrigued? Are you intrigued yet? I was intrigued. I was really intrigued. In fact, I was intrigued the whole movie. It was so damn really intriguing. So I'm just trying to dramatise the video for you, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it had a good amount of violence in it. There was a good few kung fu choppy scenes, you know, there was a good bit of violence going on, a good few karate moves going on. It doesn't let you down on the violence side. Of course, I still can't compare it to the original because I haven't watched the original. I may sit down and watch the whole of the original, not just the 10 minutes, and then I'll maybe come back in a couple of weeks' time and say that, you know, that new Oldboy remake was a pile of shit. I have made a video in the past about remakes. I'll leave the link down below to that as well, on what I think of remakes. And I usually don't like Hollywood remakes, but considering I haven't seen the original, I can't really compare it against anything. I would say this film is decent. I wouldn't believe everything the critics are saying to you about this movie. It's got some good action in it. It's got a good plot. Obviously, it's a fucking remake. Whatever. I don't know how original it is compared to the original version, but from what I watched of it, it's a decent watch. It's got some good action in it. It's got good acting in it. You can't go wrong. So that's my movie reviews of the week. Hopefully you'll join me next week and I'll give you my next 3 movies I watch. Thanks for watching.